What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing. Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at Sam Langford and Joe Walcott. They fought for the World Welterweight Championship belt. And Joe Walcott was some fighter. He was an outstanding humanitarian. But when his boxing career was over, he was discovered in New York's Madison Square Garden as a janitor. He had a broom in hand. And he would tell stories. Half blind. And he was very proud of his boxing career. He was born March 13th, 1873, and he died October 4th, 1935. He was 62 years of age at the time of his death, and he was 5 foot 1.5 inches, had a 65-inch reach. He was a welterweight. The first black welterweight champion in boxing history. Fought from 1892 to 1911. Had a total bout career of 138 fights. 87 wins, 24 losses, 57 knockouts. He was stopped 9 times himself, and he had a brilliant career. He was in the ring with Mysterious Billy Smith 6 times. George Kid Lavin twice. He fought a fighter by the name of Tommy West. Fought him twice, December 9th, 1896 and March 3rd, 1897. Tommy West stood 5 foot 5 inches. He fought in the lightweight division as a welterweight division, but mostly middleweight and light heavyweight. He was from the United Kingdom. He was in the ring with fighters such as Jack Bruton, Dan Creedon, Tommy Ryan and George Byers, and Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, Marvin Hart and Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, young Peter Jackson, and Ben Taylor. He was in the ring with Charles Kid McCoy and Joe Gans and Joe Choinsky, just to name a few. But as for Sam Langford, he was known as the Boston Bone Crusher, born March 4th, 1883 in Weymouth, Nova Scotia. He died January 12th, 1956 in Boston, Massachusetts. He stood 5 foot 7.5 inches and had a 74-inch reach. He was a colored middleweight champion, a colored heavyweight champion. He was an Australian champion, European champion. He won a featherweight championship belt in Boston as an amateur. Had a fighting career record of 252 total bouts, 178 wins, 29 losses, 38 draws, 126 knockouts. Had well over 500 fights, numerous no-decision contests that unfortunately are not recorded. But I have those records in my possession. He was in the ring with Andy Watson, 2 draws. 1 no decision. Stonewall Allen, 1 win, 1 draw. Dave Holly, 4 times. 1 loss, 2 draws, 1 win. Joe Jeanette, 14 bouts. Harry Wills, 22 bouts. 2 wins, 6 losses, 14 no decisions. Jack Johnson, 1 loss, 1906 for the colored heavyweight championship belt. He was in the ring with Bill Tate 5 times. And George Cole, no contest. Young Peter Jackson, 2 wins. It was interesting about these fighters during those days. If we look at Walcott, he accidentally shot himself in the hand. And Jack Welch was a referee in a fight with Joe Gans and Joe Walcott. And he would give Joe Gans 7 rounds and Walcott 5 rounds. Joe Walcott was in another mysterious fight with Dixie Kid, April 29th, 1904. Joe Walcott came in the ring with 2.5 weights, more than the contract had agreed upon. The referee was Dick O'Sullivan, and he put his money on Dixie Kid. And mysteriously, Walcott would lose that fight. They would do a thorough investigation, and they discover that Dick O'Sullivan had bet on Dixie Kid. So Walcott would get his title back. September 5th, 1904. The World Welterweight Championship belt was on the line. Both men weighed at 142 pounds, 15 rounds, 1,200 spectators in the crowd. And they all screamed and yelled when the fight was over and the decision rendered that Sam Langford was robbed. They felt as though Walcott didn't do enough. Sam Langford, they were certain he would become champion. And it's just unfortunate. Sam Langford would never get a break. He would face Jack Johnson in 1906 for the colored heavyweight championship belt. And here's a man 5'7". He'd be in the ring with Harry Wills 22 times, Joe Jeanette 14 times. He faced Harry Greb and Stanley Ketchel, Tiger Flowers, you name them. Langford was in the ring with him. As for Joe Walcott, he's in my top 10 greatest welterweight champions of all times. He took on the greatest fighters of his day in his weight division. George Kid Lavin was no slouch, neither was Tommy West. Mysterious Billy Smith 6 times. That's something else. Tommy Freeman. I just wanted to shout out the original Joe Walcott, the Barbados Demon, Sam Langford. 2 great fighters. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to Sam Langford and salute to Joe Walcott, the Barbados Demon. Thanks for your time. You've learned about these 2 fights right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series.